Alright guys, today I wanted to talk about some of my favorite $200 smartphones and just sort of round them up and just answer some questions that I get all the time. And these are some of my favorite phones in this price range of around the 200 to $250 price range, and just really impressive. And I want to sort of draw some comparisons between these phones and something like the Galaxy A14 or A24, or basically any budget phone in the $200 to $300. Even honestly, a lot of mid-range phones. I think these phones are a lot better, and you get a lot more value for your money. I want to talk about some things like, gaming, security, just the overall features, software support, all that stuff. We're gonna go ahead and get into. All right, so I want to talk about. I get this question a ton. So, which phone would I personally pick in the $200 price range? I get this question a lot, and it really depends. That's why I said when people typically ask, "Well, should I get this phone over this phone?" Guys, it really depends on what type of person you are and what you're going to be doing on your phone. Let's say it's very dependent on that. So there's several factors that you got to take into consideration. Now, this year, I think one of my favorite phones in this price range, it would have to be between the Galaxy S21 Plus and the LG V60. I think these are two phenomenal phones, but personally, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough because I'll explain why I think it's kind of tough. The V60 has the quad DAC, which is something that I really love. Now, the dual screen case is something that I am going to pick up for you guys, but it's not something that I personally would probably use. Mostly because the phone is already big and I have smaller hands, and it'll just make it bigger to hold. But there's a lot of functionality with the dual screen case, but I wouldn't necessarily use it. But I do like that it has a quad DAC in it for sure. And also it does have SD card support. Now, me personally, I don't download a lot of content. I don't really take a lot of photos and videos in my own personal life unless I'm actually testing out phones and stuff like that. So I probably would go with the S21 Plus if I was just me personally, right? Mostly because I know that this phone is going to get Android 15 as well. The V60 is probably just going to get security patches for another year or so. So I know this phone, I'll be able to experience, the newer versions of Android with this phone. And I'm a big display person, and I really like the high refresh rate, having 120 hertz, which the V60 does not have. And I said this, in my comments. The V60 does have an extremely smooth 60 hertz panel. It's actually pretty impressive. So like I said, it's really smooth. So just ask anybody who owns a V60 in the comments. It's a very smooth display. But yeah, I would personally go with the S21 Plus if I was spending like $200. Now, if we're talking about $300 or $350 to $400, I would probably get like an S21 Ultra or something like that, and I would use that. I really like the S21 Ultra. Also, if you are an iPhone person, you're pretty much choosing between, and I get this question a lot, you're pretty much choosing between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone XS. I personally would pick the iPhone 11, mostly because even though the iPhone 11, the display on here is not my favorite. It's an IPS panel. It's it's an IPS panel, and it's just not that high resolution, right? It's like 720p plus. But what I like about the iPhone 11 is that not only does it take better pictures than the XS, it does have the ultra wide, which is it's a really handy secondary camera. So that's something that I really like. But as far as like speed and everything, they both pretty much feel the same. This and the XS, and I would just say spend a little extra money and get the iPhone. Get the iPhone 11, and plus I like the design of it. I think it looks a little bit more modern as well too. It looks a little bit closer to something like an iPhone 12 or 13. So I definitely would go with that, just to answer that question. And for people who are asking me about the Note 10 Plus, this is still an excellent phone. Like I said, the price has come down dramatically on this phone. What's cool about this phone is that it's still actually getting security patches. So this one, the May security patch just hit on my phone. I haven't installed it because I wanted to show people. They thought it was not getting any security patches. I suspect this phone will get security patches for at least the rest of the year, hopefully even next year as well too. So we just have to keep our eye on it. It's a pretty big one too. It's 281 megabytes as well too. So I really like the Note 10 Plus. You guys know I made a ton of videos on this phone. Beautiful design, SD card support, really nice display. You get the built-in stylus. It has SD card support as well too. Yeah, it's just really, nothing not to like about this phone. And I'll show you the gaming experience on this phone, on all of these phones as well too, because that's a big deciding factor when buying a, older flagship over a mid-range or budget phone. Now, the S21 FE I wanted to mention because this phone is pretty unique. So this phone is kind of one of the only phones that you can find with these type of specs that will actually get up to Android 16. So this phone was released, I believe, with Android 12, and it will get up to Android 16, which I think is absolutely awesome. So if you're looking for a phone that's going to have the longest life cycle for $200 that you can get from Samsung, this is definitely the phone to get. I think this is an extremely good buy. And not only that, but even though this phone has a plastic back, I don't think that's such a bad move, because this is a phone that I feel like you can use without a case. You're not worried about when you drop it, you'll crack the back of the phone, like something with, like something with the S21 Plus that's full glass and metal. So yeah, so I really like the S21 FE as well too. So this is something that I, constantly see in my comments, is people, saying that they wish they found the channel sooner before they bought like a budget phone or something like that. Because when you go to play games on the budget phone, and we saw that with the Galaxy A14, that it did a, pretty much a terrible job at gaming. It wasn't like terrible, but it's like nowhere near what these phones can do in terms of gaming and just playing like PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, even Fortnite competitively on these phones. It's just an excellent experience here. So you can pretty much blind pick all of these phones, and I think you'll have a pretty good gaming experience. I think my favorite phone to game on is probably the V60. It just feels like the Snapdragon 865. It just feels like it doesn't get as hot as the 888 chip. So the S21's phones, they have the Snapdragon 888 chip. Even the oldest phone here, the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, it's still able to play at HDR Extreme. So all these phones are able to play at HDR Extreme. Even the iPhone still does a really good job with PUBG. They're all able to play at 60 frames. Really smooth. So that's why I say this is why I just love older flashes, because for $200 in this $200 price range, instead of struggling playing games on something like Galaxy A14 or even whatever Samsung's mid-range phones, you will get a really good experience on here and get really good graphic settings. Play at HDR Extreme, easy, smooth on any of these phones here, as you can see, even the oldest one. And not only that, you're not going to get a crappy screen or like the Galaxy A14. Now, this is also a question that I get quite a bit about security. So what happens when the old flagships stop getting security updates? So a phone like, let's say, the Galaxy Note 9 that so sometimes I use on and off, I still have all my stuff on there, and I've never had like a hack or security problem. I think most people get hacked due to like phishing scams and stuff like that, like those emails and people send you text messages and say, hey, you got a package or something, or whatever, you won something, and they give them your information, stuff like that. Most people get hacked like that, or most people get hacked downloading stuff that's not on the official Google Play Store as well too. But I've never actually had a security problem using a phone that's not getting software updates. Now, again, I'm not a security expert or anything like that. I've just personally never had that problem. But when I do have a phone that has officially stopped getting security updates, let's say it's something like my OnePlus 7 Pro, it's not getting a ton of security updates, I will go ahead in the Play Store and download an antivirus app. Now, you can pick one that you like. Some of these are paid services, some of these are free, stuff like that. But a lot of these applications, they protect you from malware and all sorts of stuff like that, which is something that I think is definitely really nice to have, so you know that you're on your phone safely even when the phone is not getting security patches. So that's just something I like to do. Like I said, I've never actually gotten like hacked or anything on a phone, but like I said, most of the time it's people downloading applications that's not officially on the Play Store, or they clicked on something that they weren't supposed to click on or something like that, went to a website or something like that that they weren't supposed to be on. That's typically how that goes, guys. But like I said, me personally, I've never had that issue. And if you are sort of worried about security, if you just really are worried about it, then like I said, I would get something like a Galaxy S21 FE or S21 Plus, since these phones will have one of the longest life cycles. I think the iPhone 11 has a couple more years on it as well too when it comes to software updates. And then by the time 2-3 years go by, you'll probably be ready to upgrade to a better phone. So that's why I said I think it's still a pretty good buy, even though some of these phones might not be getting security patches every month. It might be on quarterly security patches, stuff like that. When it does happen, you just put that antivirus software on there and just be mindful of the things that you are installing. Now, one of the things that I really like about older flagships is actually the image quality. Like I said, the Samsung has just knocked it out of the park here. The iPhone surprisingly does well too. The iPhone 11 takes some pretty good shots, but I don't think it is anywhere in comparison to the S21 Plus or the S21 FE. These take some phenomenal shots, like really, really good shots, almost really close to, basically flagship quality, like the flagships that are out right now, Galaxy S23 and stuff like that. It takes photos really, really close. Like I do the comparisons every year all the time. These phones take some absolutely beautiful shots. I mean, really, really good. Indoors, outdoors, even the LG V60 takes some great pictures. Galaxy Note 10 Plus, it is starting to show its age a little bit. Sometimes you get a little softer photos than I would like. But even that phone in good lighting still takes some really good photos here. But as you guys can see from these shots, this phone just has an excellent camera. All of these phones have pretty good cameras, and honestly, they all beat the Galaxy A14 or the Galaxy A24 in my opinion. I think it just looks better. You get high resolution shots as well too. Like say for instance, the S21 Plus can go up to 64 megapixels. You can get a really crispy shot with this phone. Just a ton of detail with the shots and stuff like that. So absolutely love it. I think older flagships, as far as the camera quality goes, it's just an easy choice. I think that's one of the biggest things is people buy cheap phones and they see the image quality sucks. But if you get an older flagship, you really get top tier photo quality. It's actually extremely impressive how good the photos are on all of these phones. Now, one of the things that people bring up quite a bit is battery life. And you guys gotta remember, if the phone is refurbished, typically what they do is you don't get a phone with less than 80% battery health. So like when I bought the iPhone 11, and there's actually ways, and I'll do a video, there's actually ways to maintain good battery health, like charging the phone up to 85%. But you can see in the iPhone 11 still on 87% battery health, so it's on some pretty good battery health. And I've never had an issue with battery life. They all just do a good job, and people don't actually know it's very easy to take these phones to a phone shop and just put a new battery in here. If you do get a phone that's kind of feels like it's draining a little too fast, but I've actually never had that issue. That's why I always recommend, if you're gonna buy refurbished, to buy it on sort of the bigger name sites, Amazon, eBay, stuff like that. And I just always had a good experience with those sites. Plus, you have 30 days to, return the device as well too. If you do notice that, to say, hey, this battery feels like it's draining way faster than it's supposed to. So you have that option. That's why I really like to recommend those sites. So I think just buying an older flagship in 2023 is pretty good option, guys. I'm gonna keep on, making videos on this, as we see phones that come out, they come down in price, and I'm gonna keep on updating you guys and just helping people make, better decisions here, because I know the feeling when you spend, $200, $250, and you get, a crappy cheap phone. But yeah, so it's just a no-brainer. You get flagship features, SD card support, some of these phones like headphone jack, built-in stylus, and honestly, when it comes to iPhone, the iPhone 11 can basically do everything that the newest iPhones can do software-wise. FaceTime, iMessage, it still has pretty much all the same features, so you're not really missing out on anything. Even something like the Note 10 Plus, it still has majority of the same features that a S23 Ultra would have, honestly. So be sure to let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.